Hi Pisces, this is Annette with Annette's Astrology Corner, and this is your energetic reading for the month of June, which is 2016. And so your ruler is from the 1st to the 13th going to be in Neptune and Pisces direct, and then it's going to go into retrograde from the 13th to the end of the month. So when a planet goes retrograde, one of the things that happen is, you kind of go through this slowdown energetic period. You kind of relax, reflect, reconsider. You recall a lot of lessons learned since the past retrograde cycle. There's a little bit of delay in progress, and there's a little bit of a postponement. Sometimes it redirects you and your energy, and it definitely reinforces lessons you cannot believe. One of the difficult things about this reflective cycle is that one of the things that I think it's trying to get you to understand is that there is a reality or a situation that you need to identify. Your ruler's in your own energy, so you are deeply trying to identify the sense of self. I think you're trying to realize what you want and what you need. I think that you're trying to what's being deeply compelled for you to decipher is that old sense of self and new sense of self. So I think you're kind of have this duality in yourself, and you're splitting that down the middle, and there is a realization about adapting and identifying the new sense of self, and then letting go of the old sense of self. So I think it can be a very intense process. From the 1st to the end of the month, Saturn is going to oppose both direct and indirect. It will oppose this cycle. So if you are unrealistic, or if what you're trying to achieve or what you're trying to identify with does not have some realistic component about it, it's you too idealistic, you are going to be met with delay and postponement and obstacles. There is some opposition. Jupiter, your ruler, from the 1st to the end of the month, both in retrograde and in direct, will also oppose Jupiter. And I think what this is to do is, I think there's an element about the past and the present that you need to kind of identify. You need to identify the rituals, the routines, and the mindsets that you had at a habitual basis that you kind of complied, or maybe you didn't set up powerful routines and rituals in. I mean, there was a cycle that you used to go on where you were probably, you were kind of like a martyr in the energy, or you were a healer in the energy, but you never got fed back. So I think what you're going to do is look at the past and know that the relationships that you're attracting in the future and the relationships that you attracted in the past are very different, and why. What is the karmic reason for that? From the 1st to the end of the month, we also have Neptune and Pisces, which is going to be both direct and indirect. It is going to be having a sextile with Capricorn. What this does is it deeply grounds and adds some consistency about what you need moving forward, what is going to be a firm foundation to stand on, what you identify with, who you identify yourself as, why you identify this new sense of self, what is compelling this desire to be authentic. You're going to have a lot of really intense conversations with yourself during this time, because Neptune and Pisces is going to be involved in this grand Earth trine, and it's also going to be involved in a Mutable Grand Cross. And so for some of you, this is going to be about making yourself firm in the new sense of self. And for some of you, this is about releasing the old sense of self and those karmic cycles that no longer serve you. And it's going to push and pull you into extremes in order to get you to do that. If you are resistant, if the reality is just too much that you have to make too many changes, you may try to escape this reality check, but you won't be able to in this energy. From the 1st to the 11th, Neptune and Pisces is going to be squaring off the Sun and squaring off with Venus. So this is a very difficult conversation. There's a duality about this conversation. This is about pleasure. This is about desire. This is about opportunity. This is about being enthusiastic. But at the same time, it's about, how did this work out in the past? Like, has this been your karmic cycle all along? Are you trying to release it? And Saturn will oppose you at the same time. I mean, will square off with you at the same time. So there's a sense of, do I need to go to that excess anymore to feel good, to feel pleasurable, to feel wanted, to get the attention I want? Like, do I need to go to that level anymore? I think some of you are going to identify at what level you need to get attention, to feel validated. From the 7th to the end of the month, we have this opposition with the North Node, both in direct as well as indirect type mindset. So you are definitely going to be having a conversation about the future with yourself, the road, the path, the destined choice, and a lot of these are going to attract the type of relationships that will help point you in the right direction. From the 19th to the end of the month, we're going to have Neptune in retrograde, and it is going to be trining Venus and Gemini, which drops into Cancer. So I think there's going to be an ease with relationships. I think there's going to be an acceptance. I think that there's going to be, I think you're going to move away from karmic past that no longer serve you. You're going to start to develop a sense of home. There's going to be some pleasure based around home. And then I think for some of you, it's going to be take risks with heart. You're going to be very heart-based in this energy. You're going to start to invest in new situations and new outcomes because they seem more hopeful than past mindsets. Then from the 23rd into the end of the month, there's a beautiful trine to Cancer, and it's a very reflective cycle, very, very intuitive time. The end of the month has some beautiful intuition that I think you need to follow, that you should be deeply compelled to follow. On the 4th, we have that new moon in Gemini. It will be conjunct with Venus in Gemini. So this is about your foundation, your spiritual home, as well as your physical home. For some of you, this is picking that place to live. It's making your place reflect you, how you identify that you want to live, or the people that you want to have in your home environment. Do they support that? This is going to be a difficult new moon for you because you're involved in that Mutable Grand Cross, and there is some opposition. So I think what this has to do with is the fact that what you're identifying with was some sort of past-based programming. You're breaking free of it, and I think there's a sense of Again, this is a very separating feeling. This is definitely a dualistic nature. This is the past sense of self and the present sense of self, and I believe that it's very, very dualistic. The saving grace in all this energy is that your ruler is going to be trining Pluto. So the grand Earth trine is going to be deeply compelling. It's going to be deeply compelling for you to kind of ground yourself. And this is, I'm not even kidding you, a blessed energy to a Neptune and Pisces, because Neptunian-based people are not grounded. They are dreamers. Their heads are in the clouds. They are easily distracted. They are, for lack of a better word, flaky. And this energy is going to ground that and make you much more consistent and much more reliable. And so the views that people could have had on you in the past about the way that you were kind of like that is different, because people are starting to see a much more stable investment with you. From the 1st to the 10th, we have that Mutable Grand Cross. This is the first Mutable Grand Cross, and then it kind of breaks up. And then from the 11th through the 16th, then your ruler gets involved in this Mutable T-Square with Saturn. And, the conversation is going to be all about how you move forward, who you move forward with, what direction you identify, and who you identify that you need to move forward with. More importantly, this is about putting you on the right path and moving you away from karmic cycles that no longer serve you. You are wrapping things up. You're re-identifying the new sense of self, and you're letting go of the old sense of self. There is a very separating feeling, and I think that's what's so draining about this month. I think for you is that you kind of identify with the old sense of self at the same time that you're identifying with this new sense of self. There's a level of inconsistency even in that I think can be very difficult. I know that when I separated my old self from my new self, it was a year cycle. It was a very long cycle of reflection, and it was a long cycle of lessons learned, and it was a lot of painful revelations, and it was a lot of accountability. I had to be accountable. I had to be accountable spiritually. I had to be accountable mentally. I had to be accountable physically. And more importantly, when I had to identify that I was part of my problem. And that, I think, was the hardest reality in the whole entire reality check that I went through, is that I was part of my problem, when I always, I guess, initially looked at it as it was everybody else's problem. Then from the 17th to the 21st, we have a Mutable Grand Cross, and this will be the second Grand Cross. And then from the 20th, on the 20th, we have that big full moon in Sagittarius. This is a second cumulative moon. This is a very big event. I think this will definitely redefine the journey that you want to move forward with. And it will pull you in a lot of different directions, adding a lot of confusion and conflict and just a lack of knowing what to identify with. And this, when you're pulled in all of these different directions, has a secret, sweet message in it. And I believe that because your ruler at this time is going to be in retrograde, there is a past cycle. There's some past wisdom that you can pull forward from this to help you make all of these energies merge and not be so extreme in direction. See, what a Mutable Grand Cross inevitably does for a dualistic energy is it firms you up. If you're pulled in different extremes, what it does is it firms crap up. I know what it firmed me up. I don't want to lose Annette's Astrology Corner. I want to have a relationship, and I want to continue doing my job, and I need to firm things up. It is I think it's in a very intense time. It's going to be in a very emotional month for you. It's going to be quite draining. I would say sleep. I have found sleep to be, I have a lot of Piscean energy in me, and both my parents were Pisces and my son is Pisces. All my friends have been Pisces, and one of the things I noticed about all these Pisces in my life is that they get very, very drained easily. They like to isolate. It's a time to think things through. It's a time to take care of you. Because from the 25th to the end of the month, we have another Mutable T-Square. The reality is very difficult. This is to elevate you. This is to elevate you and to get you directional in the purpose you were put on this planet for. And it is a very ascension level event for you. This June is a very ascension level month for you. It will definitely define your relationships. It will definitely define what you identify in each relationship, how you value each part of that relationship. Like, I've had relationships that were very significant relationships, but they were companionships. They were not relationships. I deeply understood that as I went through that journey. But man, one of my deepest relationships was like 20 years long before I was able to let go of it and understand that it was a relationship that was a crutch. I think that for some of you, what I think you're going to be compelled to understand is that your relationships are crutches. They're not allowing you to move forward. They provide you with a false sense of security because there's some consistency and strength in that relationship. So it doesn't really have you deal with building significant companions and bonds and unions that last that lifetime, that feeds you truly deeply with this new sense of self, because you're kind of just holding on to this stable source that was really deeply identified with the old sense of self. So I think part of this is a shedding of relationships that no longer serve you. Anyhow, guys, thank you so much for watching Annette's Astrology Corner, and I look forward to talking to you guys again next month.